Hello, and welcome to another installation of Deborah Shorts on Renegade Rebellion Media. Today, I want to talk about lawfare. It seems to be pertinent to our current events on the national level, and it will also give you a background for additional videos on Renegade Rebellion Media when we talk about how lawfare is being used at the state and local system also. So I decided to just start with a definition. So the strategic use of legal proceedings to intimidate or hinder an opponent. It's pretty simple, and I think you can probably see that happening. And if I can get to the next screen. Okay, so what I want to cover is what is lawfare, some current events to highlight at the national level. I want to talk about the DOJ, the FBI, the deep state, and the cabal on how this is playing out at the national level, and I think you'll probably already be hearing quite a bit of it in the news, and just the personal threats at all levels and intimidation that goes back and forth, and how that's implemented in lawfare. Lawfare is like it's likened to warfare. Except for this is using the law. So one thing that Trump has emphasized in all of his speeches and his legislation is that he wants to take the country back from the deep state, but he's going to do it by the book. In other words, he's going to go through the legal systems, and we'll talk about how he's doing that in this video. And we need to keep in mind that MAGA, we are the majority, and to not be intimidated by these lawfare threats, which you can just watch Trump. He is not intimidated one single bit by all these indictments and everything that's going on. So, looking up another definition of lawfare is using legal systems and institutions to damage or delegitimize an opponent or deter individuals' usage of their legal rights. Okay, it is using law as a war tactic, and it's combined with the decriminalizing violent crimes. It's defunding and hamstringing the police, plus the Soros-funded attorney generals, and you'll see this across the board. It's been building for actually many years. You have law as a war tactic of the rhino, and well, okay, the rhinos are just as bad as the Democrats in this regard. So keep that in mind too. So if you haven't seen bias in the DOJ and FBI at this point, I don't know what to say. You know, when you hear Trump say over and over again, Russia, 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 they paid somebody to invent a document in order to impeach Trump the first time around, and the second time around was a phone call that now it's turning out that he was exactly right. You know, there was corruption in Ukraine that the new Zelensky needed to look at. And Zelensky even said so himself. But yet, you know, Trump gets all of these indictments and the Bidens go free. That is what lawfare is all about. It is weaponizing the government against a political candidate. And so you will hear Trump repeat over and over again about election interference. They are interfering with the elections. Not only the 2020 election, they're trying to interfere with the 2024 election. Look at what they did with the 87,000 IRS agents just to come out and attack conservative and churches, you know, for the IRS. I mean, why would they need 87,000 IRS agents? They can't even get that much money out of people that they already don't get. But, you know, and I believe I believe the House has defunded that part, but I'm not sure at this point. Okay, the shutdown of conservative businesses. We saw this during COVID. The churches were shut down. Conservative business, but then other businesses were allowed to be open. So what gives with that? And well, we'll get into that at the state level too. Okay, so um, Trump has been fighting a battle of lawfare ever since he was elected. The litigation of his executive orders, the wall, immigration reform, and he's just plowed through every single one. He's just taken it all the way through the courts, and it's taken, a year to get the wall started, 2 years actually, to get the wall even started. And he had to go through the Department of Defense in order to do it. But, you know, that that's one way of just battling this whole lawfare thing, where they take it to court after court after court, and they take it to the courts that they like. So it's made to halt or slow policy changes, and it's made to occupy your opposition's time in order to drain their resources and their time. It is just to, we'll just drag you through courts and courts and courts until you give up, essentially. Um, and we've seen it play out for the last 7 years, actually. And then they weren't done when Trump was out of office, and they still are after him because they're afraid that he might be in office again, and which he will be. But that's the way it goes. Whoever has the most dollars wins. How many times have people tried to speak up in the government and then just gets lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit posted after them, and they finally are, they run out of money. They run out of money and they run out of time, and so the opposition wins. You'll see examples of that in future Renegade Rebellion videos. So just keep watching. You'll learn that this is not just a national thing, but Trump wanted to bring this out in order to show people what is happening in our government. It's not about what's right. It's about who wins. So how do they do this? Well, for one, George Soros has funded tons of attorney general races, even in Virginia, all across the country, key attorney general races, to make sure that what their policies are battled and supported. So what are their policies? Well, defund the police, decriminalize violent crimes and shoplifting, leveraging and hijacking groups such as the BLM, Antifa, and LGBT. And notice I didn't put the plus and I didn't put the M or the Q on there, because it used to be LGBT, and then they kept adding because they have actually hijacked one legitimate group and added their own twist to it in order to create more division. So the purpose is to create division, is to demoralize people. Teachers have to be afraid of calling a student by the wrong pronoun or they get fired, and they seriously do with this lawfare thing. And to demonize anybody who's not a Democrat or a rhino or part of the deep state. So it's been it's been a concerted effort from the cabal, Soros and the cabal, and the government, all tied in because they have the power now. And it's what you're seeing in play. So Trump's popularity is really putting a little bit of a wrench in their works. But while he was there, even with all the fighting, he got appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, which has been key in his wanting to bring this country back to reality, really, and do it legally through the structures of the Constitution. So we have 3 new Supreme Court justices. He has appointed over 300 district judges, and that was more than just about any other president. He was very busy on focusing on making sure that district judges were placed that were conservative. And he's fighting back. He's fighting back for all of those persecuted at all levels, and he's not giving up. And I think you'll see that as the news plays out. I mean, how many indictments? He's got 3 so far. He says there's going to be one more. So we'll find out what that one is. And he gets more popular with every indictment. It is now obvious that the deep state is not just a minority, but it is just the minority, and the tide's turning on them. So it's we the people that need to stand up against this deep state. So follow Trump's words. He has repeated over and over, just like he has the fake news, which we talked about, the Mockingbird media before, but he's talked about election interference, and that is really key. He is emphasizing that what they have done just this week with his indictments about January 6th, which is a fake anyhow, but the January 6th and trying to convince people that there was some kind of insurrection on January 6th is election interference. They're trying to get him to not be able to run in 2024. So in that, you may want to go look at the devolution category in my Deverosa Diggs website, because in devolution, Trump had written several executive orders. One of them that comes to mind is EO 13848, and you really become familiar with that. It's pretty simple, and what it does is it talks about punishments for people who have interfered with U.S. elections, or countries, either one, that have interfered with U.S. elections. And this is why in his current speeches he talks about election interference just about every time. The curious thing is that this executive order expires in September 12th of 2023. Happens to be my birthday, but but September 12th, and it had expired actually twice before. But Biden renewed it. Biden renewed it in both the 2021 and 2022, so that it is still in place in right now until September 12th of 2023. So what happens? Does he renew it again, or does this actually come into play with what's going on right now? So we just have to watch what happens next. I mean, right now they're threatening him because he said he was going to fight back, and they said that now, Jack Smith, if that's really his real name, and Trump always mentions, is that his real name? He's feeling threatened by Trump, and so they want to. And Trump keeps saying there's one more indictment. Personally, I think it's either going to be the Georgia indictment, where I listened to the phone call that they want to indict him on, and it's like it was just crazy. They just take the first couple words of his sentence and skip the rest of it to make it look bad. But that's either going to be the indictment, or I think they may indict him about threatening Jack Smith, which is totally bogus, just like everything else that they're doing against him. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details about his indictments or anything like that, but you've got to have heard a lot. I mean, the Mar-a-Lago documents thing, that's a bogus thing. I mean, he was the president. He could but what it's doing is it's setting precedents for this executive order and others that he has put in place, and all those orders are listed out in quite a bit of detail on my website under the devolution category. this is all part of just a brilliant plan of his, actually. So, in summary, the legal system has been used as a weapon of war against anyone opposed to the deep state narrative. There is no right versus wrong in the legal system. There's what is arguable and winnable and buyable. So you're seeing it play out, and hopefully this understanding gets across to many people about, we don't have a fair legal system right now. It is totally one-sided. Um, the speak up at a school board and you could be thrown into jail. It's crazy. So, um, and we'll be talking about a lot of more of that in future videos on Renegade Rebellion Media. There's bias in enforcement, and it creates division, which is the goal of the deep state. And you've got to understand it. That's the whole reason. They want to divide us. And it's not working because Trump gets more and more popular every time they try it. And fighting the system narrative means being persecuted and prosecuted. So, you see it through the media, through the internet. It's just this massive concerted effort to steal the United States from the people, actually. That's what's happening. So, when justice becomes injustice, you lose your country, is what happens. But I think that there's great things happening, and I think that we need to watch the news carefully. I will post any pertinent news articles. I have some good historical articles and that on the blog. So if you go to renegaderebellionmedia.com and check out the blog, you'll be able to keep track. And also that goes to the Facebook page. So that will keep you up to date as much as I can keep you up to date as far as what's going on. So thank you for listening. Please like and share the video and all of our videos, and we want to try and get the word out so that people are understanding what's going on with, are they going to throw Trump in jail? What all's going to happen next? We'll try to keep you up to date. Thank you.